Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, a crazy renter got me arrested after I tried to evict her for not paying rent and being an entitled brat. She now claims that she owns my house. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. The title story starts like this. I was born and raised in the country of Belarus. I no longer live there as I took the plunge to move to a completely different country and get citizenship there. But I will say that I have some remarkably interesting stories from there. Actually, perhaps my most interesting stories come from my time as a landlord over there. I really hate that term, but what else do you call it? I had inherited a property when I already had my own, but instead of selling it, I decided to rent it out. Rent in Belarus is pretty cheap, but the money stretches a lot further than it would in Western countries. I did encounter a few interesting people while renting out my property. And one in particular I will never forget. I actually went to jail overnight because of her. Can you believe that? So let me first start off by saying that this Karen was never super friendly from the get-go. She was not necessarily rude to me at first. I mean, maybe that is because she had to be somewhat civil since she was renting a house from me, but anyways, she was civil. I never really had a problem with her until a few months after she moved in. I noticed that particular stuff around the house would break. It was always something that required for me to fix it too. For those that don't understand, there are certain things that renters have a right to, and if I refused to fix something, then I could be in trouble. For example, on one occasion during the cold winter season, she complained that the heating unit was not working and the house was unbearably cold. By law, I had 30 days to fix it, and obviously I was already aware that there was some cost in owning a house, but repairs like these can get expensive pretty fast. Over the next few months her attitude got worse and worse and she stopped paying her rent. At first I was too naive because she told me that she was having money issues. Now, after 2 missed rent payments, I can legally evict her. I know that seems like a lot, right? Well, I was a dummy because I waited until it was 4 rent payments, and meaning yes, she was behind 4 months. Now, that is a lot of money missing. I would be lying if I said that the rent money from the property did not help me out, but that was beside the point. It also paid for a lot of the repairs and maintenance, and well, I gave her a warning before I evicted her. I could not keep waiting for rent money, and it was becoming noticeably clear that she did not have any money issues going on, but was rather showing her true colors and taking advantage of my niceness. Well, of course, she was not happy about that. She has a few family members in the police, and she told me that she was going to have me arrested. At first, I obviously did not believe her. I thought she was just being nasty and threatening me. And yes, a part of me did feel bad for evicting her, but like I said, I could not keep playing Mr. Nice. Well, when eviction day came, I pulled up to her house and there is already a police officer there. Apparently, she is telling them that I broke into her house last night. The windows were smashed, but it was because she smashed them herself. As I looked around, I started seeing other damages done to the property. I was just baffled. She was trying to claim that she owned the house and that I broke in. I tried to tell the police officers that I was the homeowner and could even provide documents, but they did not listen. I think some of them knew her, or maybe one of them was her relative. Anyways, they literally end up arresting me for breaking and entering. I argued that they had no proof to her story, like how did they assume she owned the house when she was just in fact the renter? Well, apparently her waving a key to the house in front of their face was enough for them. So I ended up spending the night in jail, which was not incredibly fun. I kept trying to explain to them the situation multiple times and no one listened. I even told them I could prove she signed a rent agreement and was not meeting her half of the agreement by obviously paying her rent on time. I mean, she was not even paying it at all, but unfortunately for them I was allowed 1 phone call. I called my sister and gave her directions on how to get into the safe in my house. In my safe, I kept all important documents such as stuff regarding the property, the papers from when I inherited the house, etc. She got papers that proved Karen was a tenant and I was the actual owner. She was able to bring them down to the police station and my 1-day jail stay was over. Karen ends up getting charged with squatting, which she had to pay a 1K fine. She also ended up getting arrested for filing a false police report when she told the police I broke into her house. She also has to pay for the damages she caused to the house. Obviously, she had to move out, but it was so nice not to deal with her after that. Also, she did actually make payments on the fine and the damage she did, so that was a win. Note to myself, always do a background check on your tenants before you sign the rent agreement. And yeah, ripe stars, I guess tenants such as these certainly can make your life hell, but I would hope that this does not happen that often. I would argue that people that are as entitled as crazy as this are thankfully still quite rare in this world. But anyway, let's continue to the next one. This one is titled Revenge on Abusive Mom. It's a rough story to start, so I will just go chronologically. The first example of how evil she was, my older brother told me. Back when I was really young, my dad was in the army and managed to score some leave, aka vacation time, from Desert Storm to surprise my mom for her anniversary. When he knocked on the door, all my mom said was, "Why aren't you dead? I need the money." Her new beau then started backing out of the garage in my dad's Mustang Cobra. He got revenge, but that's a story for later if you guys want. The divorce was pretty much what you expect. Mom got custody of me, my dad later tricked her with some money and got me for a visit and then filed for custody since my mom had warrants out for her arrest. A few years later, my dad remarried to your typical evil stepmother who doted on her daughters and hates her stepson. For example, for Easter, my stepsisters got huge baskets of candy and chocolates, a couple toys, etc. I got an old soup can with my name painted on it poorly that I could use for pencils. This witch managed to talk my dad into sending back to my mom, and here the story begins in earnest. Where my mom was living was an old 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. My sisters shared one room, my mom and stepdad shared the other. My brother got the whole basement and I got a room so small that I could touch fingertip to fingertip each wall, and it was double that long. I had a curtain instead of a door. I got nothing and I really hated life there. I was one of the only few white kids at school, so I got beat up a lot for being white. It was a low-income area in Michigan, so I was the one who always had to shovel, rake, mow, and then my mom would rent me out to the neighbors and they all just paid her. And by the way, that sounds really wrong. Either way, I did all the chores and was grounded until she felt like ungrounding me. I basically sat on my bed for 6 years anytime I was not in school cleaning or making her money. I learned this later, but my mom was extorting money from my dad. She would demand $3,000 for a school photo and he willingly paid $700 a month in child support even though there was no need to. He worked in the oil field business after he retired on a corporate board. She would make stuff up like, "Our car broke," etc. and demand money. My dad had to fork over $12,000 for me to go visit him for a week. He could not take me in at that time, he was not home enough, lots of travel, and he was single, but I found out he was sending me Christmas and birthday gifts every year, and I later found out from my brother that she pawned them all. He bought me a brand new Game Boy Color, which was promptly taken away because I was grounded. She pawned that too. She would often hit me for stupid reasons, like when I once put the dishes away a bit damp or if I managed to get a chocolate milk from the school cafeteria. Once I got fed up and pushed her, she called the police and he chided me. In short, it was just hell. Meanwhile, my sisters got upgraded to a private school and lots of amazing toys. She took custody of my grandfather, who had MS from the waist down and could not even use the bathroom by himself. She got power of attorney and took all his money and blew it, as well as taking half his pain meds like Vicodin and giving them to my brother to sell. This will be important later. Kind of. Now for the revenge part, this is gonna be a bit long, so I apologize in advance. In my junior year of high school, I got to working in the library. My teachers were amazing and supportive and knew my situation. I got my dad's email and we started planning. He figured once I finished high school, he would personally come up and get me. Finally, when my mom decided to have a graduation party for me, complete with inviting her, all her friends and none of the like, 2 people I could call a friend, a couple days before my graduation ceremony. About 2 hours before the party was gonna start, my dad pulls up. I invite him in and he looks around, looks confused. He leans in and asks me, "Where is she?" I point. She was right in front of him lying on the couch. He screwed up his face and said he would wait in the car. While I was gathering all my stuff in a single garbage bag, my mom finally realized who this stranger was and lost her mind. She tried everything from bribing me with NASCAR tickets, I hate NASCAR but she liked it but I knew she didn't have any, to physically obstructing me. She had pulled out all the stops for this party, spending a couple thousands and lots of time cooking, making me cook. I get outside, throw my stuff in the truck and we take off. Side story, we get halfway down the street and my dad has to pull over. He laughs uncontrollably for a while. I asked him what's up and in his Texan accent says, "Boy, when I was a kid, I always wanted to marry a movie star." I just did not think it would be Jabba the Hutt. Evidently, they did not recognize each other at first. She put on a lot of weight after they divorced. We get to his place and then it starts. I get updates from my sister-in-law. The party was effed. She was humiliated since she did not have me. My dad stopped sending money. They had months worth of unpayable bills. She had to pawn her jewelry, pull my sisters out of the private school and back into public school, sell one of the cars she had. Soon she started calling for money, claiming someone stole the mail all the time, so they could not pay their bills and needed money to replace the mailbox so they wouldn't steal it anymore. It was refreshing knowing I was free and I could say no with no repercussions. I was happy to live and let live. I vowed to leave her be and let her sink or swim by her own hand. I was elated to be free and had no desire to look back at that part of my life, but she was not done with me yet. I decided to follow my dad's example and join the service. I decided the Navy was the place for me. My job required a top secret clearance, so they do a very thorough background check to include a credit check. Turns out I was delinquent in mortgage payments, I was receiving social security, and I owed a power company a lot of money among other credit card debts. That woman stole my identity and ran me into debt since she couldn't get any more money. I knew about identity theft, it just never occurred to me that a parent has everything they need to do so. This simply could not stand. After I finished basic training and my technical school, I spoke to my chief supervisor. The chief was awesome. She managed to wrangle me a temporary assignment to a recruiting station in my old town where my mom lived so the Navy would buy my plane tickets. I spoke to the police and filed a report. One by one I managed to clear most of the debts from me and sent all the debt collectors after her. Then I made a visit to the Social Security office. I was in uniform at the time and spoke to a clerk about how I was somehow getting payments when I never got anything. She looks up the account and boom, my mom was here. She claimed that I was permanently mangled and disabled in an accident and I was physically unable to sign, giving her permission to cash my checks. The clerk read that last part out slower as it dawned on her that I was clearly more than able. She opened a case. For the monolithic bureaucracy that was the government, they move pretty fast when someone is stealing money from them. Turns out when they went to investigate, she had already skipped town. They issued warrants for her arrest and she is on the run. So this was 10 years ago and evidently my brother found out that not only am I doing great, I am very successful in fact. I recently left the service and I am starting an even more exciting job. So he told mom and she came crawling out of the woodworks via Facebook for money for a doctor, but I told her prison gives free medical care and it felt good. Turns out when my aunts, her sisters who lived in another state, found out about how she treated me, she was cut out of everyone's will to include my grandma. Unfortunately, we did not get to my grandfather before she cashed in on him. So heavily in debt with no family to turn to, no way to get a job, with fraud on her record, as well as selling prescription medication and warrants out for her arrest, my mother, Jabba the Hutt, is receiving hers. I got cut a check for $20,000, the amount that was garnished from my wages for what she stole from the Social Security Administration, and she now owes that much to Uncle Sam. And you know, Ripe Stars, that reminds me, we usually like to say, never mess with a farmer, never mess with a soldier or old people, and all of that is true, but in general also, you should probably not try to mess with the government, especially when it comes to not paying them what they are owed or when stealing money from them, like the person in this case. That can very quickly go south, and I hope this woman learned her lesson. And yeah, I gotta say, I would probably go crazy if my family would be like this. I cannot imagine how it would be if your family is this hostile, or at least one person in the family. But either way, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Worker gets kidnapped by a Karen at work. I've been reading through these for a while, and another story I read made me think of this. I will try to keep it short. A little background: I used to work at a large used car company with some locations having service stations. My location had a service station for our customers who bought cars from us and had any issues or just wanted to do regular servicing. Our service department was only open from 7 AM to 4 PM on weekdays, not very easy to work around if you work normal 8 to 5 work weeks, I completely understand. I used to work the weekend shifts/night shifts at this company in their business office, paperwork for sales, while I was going to college. Now onto the story. The characters for this story are me, my coworker Jay, and the entitled woman EW. This happened around 6 PM on a Saturday night. Every Friday before the service station closed for the weekend, the manager would bring over a bin with all the weekend pickups, so any customers who couldn't make it during the weird work week hours had the opportunity to still pick up/pay for it in the main office. We had a woman come in, EW, already in a frenzy because she had just bought the car and was upset she had to already get it serviced. We had a 30-day window where all issues with the car would be fixed for free and the customer given a free rental in the meantime, so she didn't have to pay for the repairs, but I do understand the frustration of having to go through the trouble of having to bring the car in and pick it up. I was going through the process of grabbing her keys and having her sign the sign-out form for her car, but she refused to sign it without test driving the vehicle first. Now, at nights we only have 3 people in the office. Our manager was gone talking to the sales manager for the evening, and I had been working there for almost 2 years. So I told Jay I could handle the office alone and asked her to take EW out to her car so she could check it and see if it was running okay. I told Jay just to have her turn it on. If she had any issues, I would just reissue her the rental and have the service techs take a look when they came in Monday. Jay grabs the EW's keys and paperwork and tells her to follow her to the service lot. Now 45 minutes have passed, my manager is back in the office and we are getting busy, and I'm the only one able to leave to assist any customers or sales associates with paperwork, so I tell my manager that I'm going to run out and check on Jay and EW to see if I can speed up the process and get Jay back in the office to help with the rush. I go out to the service lot, no Jay, no EW, and no EW car. I start to panic a bit because I know Jay does not have her phone. We have to leave them locked in our cabinets because we handle people's bank and personal info, so I cannot tell her to see where her and EW went. Another 10 minutes pass and Jay comes running back into the office sweating. I ask her where the hell she went because the whole process should have only taken about 15 minutes maximum. Here is what EW did. Jay took EW out to her car and the check engine light was no longer on and it was not making any noises while idling. I guess this did not satisfy EW enough and she refused to do anything until she could test drive it. It's part of our service tech's jobs to test drive the car before checking it as completed for this very reason. No, EW is not technically allowed to do that because she refused to sign out the vehicle and it would be liable to us if anything happened while still under our care. Jay tried to explain this to EW, but she refused to listen. Jay was new and was a little scared of EW because she was being quite belligerent, so when EW said all she needed was a ride around the lot, she said okay and handed her the keys. She then told Jay that she had to go with her as a witness to the noise the car would make. Jay did not know how to refuse. I understand it's a weird situation to be in as a new employee having a customer screaming in your face telling you have to do this. So she gets in the car with EW and EW then takes off. She leaves the parking lot, starts going on back roads and then gets on the interstate for a 35-minute joyride with my coworker. Jay did not know if she was getting kidnapped because she kept telling EW to pull over and go back, but she just told her to wait because the noise would happen. After EW finally came back to the store, Jay just ran straight from the car to the office to tell the manager, and of course she is crying and shaking. My manager immediately goes outside and rips the woman a new one and told her to get out or she would be getting the cops called on her. She was blacklisted from our store, but I did get in trouble for having such a new coworker handle that situation. I already feel like crap about it, man, but in the end, Jay was not kidnapped, just under the forced supervision of a very entitled Karen. And guys, to me, forced supervision by a Karen sounds a lot like kidnapping. I personally would not want to, under any circumstances, spend more than even 5 seconds in one car with an entitled Karen. Honestly, talk about a traumatic experience for a new coworker. I really hope the coworker recovered from this. Either way, if you enjoy the stories about coworkers and crazy customers, then please feel free to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance.